Go ahead, guys.
Zach, what type of right knee injury was Jonah Williams diagnosed with?
Not as severe as it could be. It'll be a couple weeks. We'll put him on IR. Had this been early in the season, it would not have been a too long of a injury.
So he's not done for the season.
We only have 4 games left, so he's going on IR for 3. So it's hard to say right now, but he'd only be able to come back to the last game, if anything.
Mm-hmm. And also, Joe Mixon has been on IR since November 21st. Do you expect him to return at all at this point?
That's still a possibility. He won't be back this week, but that's still a possibility for the season.
So you don't anticipate Jonah's injury being something that's going to hurt his offseason in preparation for 2021?
No.
So does he need surgery?
No, it's just going to be a couple-week deal, and unfortunately, we only have a couple weeks left, so it remains to be seen if he'll be back for that last game. But in some sense, you were able to dodge a bullet there.
So now you're obviously in a little bit of a shuffle mode up front again. That seems to be a weekly situation for you, doesn't it?
That's the way it goes. Yep.
Would you give Hakeem a shot there again?
Yeah, Hakeem will get a look for us. We still have some things we're working through this week with the rest of the line, but Hakeem will get an opportunity to play this week.
Is Fred Johnson doing all right? He's been inactive. How's he doing?
Yeah, he's been fine. It's just tricky. You got 8 guys up. Typically for us, it's been a center, a guard, and a tackle. And Hakeem's been that tackle the last couple of weeks, but that doesn't mean that we've been disappointed with Fred. It's just the way that it's worked out. We've got a lot of linemen that have been on the active roster. And so each week you just got to make a difficult decision on those inactives.
What goes through your mind, Zach, when you think about Andy Dalton and Andy Dalton returning to Cincinnati to play football?
Yeah, just the tremendous person he is and how much he means to the city. All the things that he did for this organization and he and his family have done for this area. Just tremendous person. I've got a ton of respect for him. I really enjoyed working with him. In the sense we were only together for a year. So there's a lot of players that me personally, I've been around for a year that I've coached against, or players, coaches, whatever it is. So that's not unique for me. It's probably a little bit more unique for just the fans of Cincinnati and a lot of the players that have been here for a while.
You hear guys say all the time when they go back to play a former team, it's just another game, and they try to downplay it. But with Andy and with Xavier Su'a-Filo, do you think that's bunk? Do you think there's a little extra?
I was never good enough to be in that position to actually, go in a locker room and put on the pads and go play for a club and then have to play them. I've always thought that would be strange. But again, I can't speak for any personal experience on that one. I take that back. I transferred from Wake Forest to my second game in Nebraska. We played Wake Forest. That was a little unusual. But other than that, that's the closest I can get to it.
Is Darius Phillips on track to start on Sunday, and just how has he looked?
Yeah, Darius, he came back last week and then had an illness that was completely unrelated to his time on IR. And so, just the times we're in, we didn't travel him just because there was some unknown there. But he's back healthy now. So now he gets a full week of work, and we do expect him to play this weekend.
With respect to Andy's football IQ and being so smart, do you have to consider, particularly Lou defensively, changing some things that he might be aware of, that he might be able to pick up on? How much of that do you have to go through?
Yeah, those are always conversations we have when you get players that have awareness of your calls and your schemes. And, nowadays they mic up so many players. A lot of that stuff shows up in the TV copies. So you always have to be aware of what's out there, regardless of whether or not a player played for you or not. So those are conversations we always have.
Zach, was there ever any kind of conversation about having Andy be a backup for Joe this year, or were the financials and just everything involved just not conducive to making that happen?
We talked in depth about every situation that was imaginable, and ultimately we just came to the decision that we ended up making. But certainly everything was on the table with Andy, and that's what happens when you think highly enough of a player and you know that they can help you. You make sure you exhaust every decision before you make your final one.
I'm guessing those conversations occurred before free agency, correct?
Then that feels like 5 years ago, to be quite honest with you. So don't hold me to any timeline on that one, because that that feels like an eternity ago.
What did you learn from Andy? As you know, obviously you had him as a backup quarterback for 3 games. What did you learn about him during that time, and what kind of value did a veteran like that provide in that role as your number 2?
He was a professional about it, certainly, and wanted to play at the same time, though. So usually the ones that know that they can still play, they feel that way. And but again, I got nothing for respect with how he handled it. He would come up my office after many games last year, and we'd talk, on Sunday nights, and so I appreciated my time with him.
I'm sure that was awkward, when you gave him that news, and then obviously you went with Ryan for 3 games. Did you learn anything from being a first-year head coach at the time from that experience?
I've learned so much from every experience I have, and it's you can only look to improve from the experience you've had in your past. You always make the decision you feel like is best for the team at that time, and then weeks later you make another decision, and that's just the way it goes sometimes. But I thought everybody handled it the right way, and I'm sure deep down there's a lot of things. Sometimes you learn things and you don't realize how much you learned until a similar situation arises that okay, well, I've been here before and I can draw from those experiences. And so sometimes you learn, you can't quite articulate what you learned until you're put in a similar situation, and then it kind of comes out.
Coach, when you work with a guy like Andy and then you watch him play on a Monday night game like that, do you find part of you is rooting for him, to do well, but the other part of you is making notes about what he's doing?
I don't really find myself rooting for anybody when I watch these games, and it's just we're watching the Dallas Cowboys because they're our opponent. We're watching the Ravens because they're a divisional opponent that we've seen before and we'll see again. And that's really all that's going through my mind when I'm watching that game.
How did you come up with a plan of how to take a Tuesday night game and work that in? Because obviously that's a new situation.
Yeah, personnel-wise, a lot of teams handle Baltimore's offense differently, and so you always have to factor it in when you're watching another team's defense play against Baltimore's offense because they're unique, and they've obviously done a great job. So, you got to start your plan with we've now got 10 games that are on tape for the season, so that gets you enough to really get going, and then you just add last night's game. We all watched it last night. We all watched it again this morning, and you can tweak your plan if there's anything you saw in that game that would affect that. But for the most part, we feel comfortable with where we're at.
Coach, if there's anyone, go ahead, Lap. Go ahead.
After taking a look at the tape that you looked at before last night's game, what was your determination? What do you think about Dallas defensively?
There's a lot of good players. It starts up front with them. I played Dallas many times over the years, and it's always started up front. They've always had a front 4 that's really physical and they can rush the passer. And those 3 linebackers in particular, when you look at Sean Lee, got tremendous amount of respect for them. They played a lot of good football over the years and played at Pro Bowl levels. I know they're banged up at the secondary right now, but those guys are competing hard. So defensively, there's a lot of things that they've got some ability over there, and they've had some really good moments this year. And offensively, there's a lot of talent over there on offense. Those receivers, Andy's a veteran quarterback. Those guys up front are fighting their tails off, and the tight end's been playing well. And obviously they got Zeke and some good backs back there. So you see a lot of talent on the field when you watch their offense in particular.
2 more minutes with Coach.
Coach, if there's one thing you want to improve with the run game this week, obviously I think they're last in the league against the run. What do you need to do offensively to improve the run game after last week?
We got to be more efficient on early downs, and that's really, you look at our third downs by distance, first half, second half. That's one of the things that we got to improve on. And so just as the game goes, we got to be more consistent with the run game to put ourselves in better situations.
I was going to say, quick turnarounds are nothing new because everybody plays Thursday games, but usually it's equal footing. In a situation like this where one team has 58 hours more of prep time than the other, if the shoe was on the other foot, would you have a gripe?
The shoe's not on the other foot though, Jay. So I'm not going to complain about anything right now. But yeah, it is interesting. This situation does not arise very often. Tuesday night football, that's the new norm, I guess, in 2020.
And you compound that with they had 12 days. They played Thanksgiving, have a long time to prepare and play a game, and then like 4.5, 5 days. You go long, you go short. That's kind of a weird dynamic as well, isn't it?
it's weird, but we'll just control what we can control. We've been on 7-day patterns here for a while, and so we've had a normal flow of work week, and we'll be ready to go on Sunday.
One last question. Any more?